After 12 years and 11 films, the Conjuring Universe has finally reached its apparent end with The Conjuring Last Rites. From the moment James Wan introduced us to this fictionalized take on Ed and Lorraine Warren back in 2013, this series has terrified audiences while surprising us with something far more rare in horror: heart. With Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga as the spiritual and emotional anchors, The Conjuring Universe became not just a saga of demons and hauntings, but of a marriage tested and strengthened through the darkest nightmares. Now, with Last Rites, we've reached the farewell. This film isn't the scariest in the series, and it isn't the most polished, but it is the most openly sentimental, and I think that's exactly what it needed to be. What made this franchise endure wasn't just the scares. Yes, we got face clawing demons, haunted dolls, and one of the most frightening nun figures ever put on film, but beneath it all was Ed and Lorraine Warren. Not the controversial real world figures, but the heavily fictionalized versions played so beautifully by Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga as two people whose love for each other became the ultimate weapon against evil. Wilson and Farmiga deserve enormous credit for shaping these roles into something more than the script could have provided. Their versions of Ed and Lorraine are gentle, weary, sometimes skeptical of themselves, and always just a heartbeat away from losing one another. Watching Last Rites, you realize how rare it is to see a horror franchise built not on body count, but on devotion. Because in the Conjuring universe, the fantastical tales of Catholic mythology may be treated as though they're literally real, but when Ed and Lorraine look at each other, the supernatural becomes almost secondary. The films have always told us love is stronger than any demon. Last Rites opens by taking us back to the Warrens' past, to the traumatic birth of their daughter Judy, a scene marred by a dark presence that echoes forward into this story. Then we jump decades ahead to 5 years after the previous film, The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. Ed's health has forced the Warrens into retirement. They're older now, grounded, spending more time with Judy, who's grown into adulthood. There are cookouts, family moments, and gentle humor. It's the calm before the storm. But evil doesn't retire, and soon the Smurl family finds themselves under siege from a demonic presence. Their case drags Ed and Lorraine back into the fight, blurring the line between personal peace and their lifelong duty. The setup is classic Conjuring: an ordinary family in peril, a haunted home filled with shadow and dread, and the Warrens as both investigators and guardians. This film's version of the Smurls works because they're drawn as a family first, victim second. They recall the Perrons of the first Conjuring or the Hodgsons in The Conjuring 2, ordinary people caught in extraordinary darkness. Their haunting gives the film its sharpest shocks early on. A pantry scene involving nothing but shadows and a telephone cord is enough to raise goosebumps. Director Michael Shavs, often criticized for overloading his horror with noise and chaos, plays things simpler here. The imagery has weight. This isn't about reinvention, it's about remembering why James Wan's original Conjuring films worked so well. What makes Last Rite special is how it circles back to the core themes of the entire franchise. Every Conjuring film and every spin off, no matter how wild, has ultimately been about the resilience of love and family in the face of any amount of darkness. This film emphasizes those themes directly. Judy Warren is finally brought into the fold, not as the young girl we followed in Annabelle Comes Home, but as a grown woman forced to confront what her parents' work has meant for her life. She is frightened, angry, yet ultimately as empathetic as Ed and Lorraine themselves. Through her, the franchise becomes not just about the Warrens battling demons, but about a family legacy of surviving them. And then there are the callbacks: cameos from familiar faces from across the Conjuring universe, quiet nods to past cases, and visual reminders that this is the end. Some may find it indulgent, but I found it moving. It felt like turning the last pages of a very long, very haunted family album. After the Warrens' ultimate victory over one last threat, the final moments of the film avoid spectacle in favor of intimacy. It doesn't introduce a flashy new demon or hint at another spin off, instead, it leans into emotion. In its closing scenes, an extensive epilogue sequence designed to bring tears to the eyes of longtime fans, the film delivers exactly what it promised: a farewell. Watching Wilson and Farmiga share their final moments as Ed and Lorraine, it's hard not to feel we're saying goodbye not just to characters, but to an entire era of horror filmmaking. Few modern horror series have balanced mass appeal with sincerity the way the Conjuring universe has. By the time the credits roll, you may find yourself misty-eyed, as if you've been haunted not just by demons, by the inevitability of endings. So where does The Conjuring Last Rites fall in the franchise? It's not the best film in the series, that crown still belongs to the original The Conjuring, nor is it the most inventive, but it is the most fitting. Like some of the best final entries in film sagas that have come before it, it closes the book with tenderness and grace, reminding us what the journey was really about. Because this isn't just a series of horror films, it was a love story disguised as one. A story about a husband and wife who, together, faced down the darkness again and again and found light in each other. After 12 years and 11 films featuring evil spirits, haunted dolls, demon nuns, weeping women, cult murders, and endless whispers in the dark, the Conjuring universe says goodbye. And it leaves us with a reminder that resonates far beyond the theater. Evil persists, but love endures even more so. I'm going to miss these movies, and I think you will too.